See where we're at. I didn't realize how much of a computer person I was going to become because of COVID.
You're quite techie.
I, you know what I tell everybody? If you can use a GPS on a boat, you can do what I'm doing with the whole podcast.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I just went from a flip. I just got my first smartphone about a month ago, and I have to hand
ah,
it to Bobby every day to fix it because I just touched the screen and I don't know where I'm at.
it's pretty funny because when I bought my first smartphone, they said you need to take a test and you just failed. Oh,
So I tell God, I said, I don't need this kind of test. I can fail a written one.
exactly. I do this stuff on my own. I don't need your help. I'm showing live on one page. I'm not showing live over here on this on my Facebook. Oh, I hear people in the shop.
Yep, we've got a couple customers coming in. Now we're in an awesome location here in New Smyrna, that's for sure.
I'm gonna have to go up there and check it out.
Stop in for a fresca. There's a home brewery right next door.
Sweet. Uh, I'm on. I see one page on. I don't see the other one. Maybe I'm not that lucky today. Oh, it's saying that I'm live, but I do not see. Oh, there we are. Oh, already got people commenting. People, I am so sorry. I got everybody here. Holy smokes. I have Susan Abbott's joined in from South Texas. I have a friend from Libya. Nice to meet you as well, buddy. Well, you know what? Let's stop. Let's get this party started. And we are back. Here I am, Fly Navarro with the No BS World Tour, coming at you live right here on social media, telling you all the good stories that we have to talk about in the fishing, hunting, outdoor community. Today's broadcast is being brought to us by, that's right, Best Catch 2020, my first foray into being an author. You are allowed to make fun of me about being an author all day long as you have the book in your hand, and you can have that book if you go to bestcatch2020.com. And if you order before the end of this week, you'll get a signed copy because I'm flying to Texas next week to sign all the copies. Today in the house, we have Mr. Dave Wirth. Dave, how are you, sir?
Aloha, amigo.
What's happening, brother? How are you?
Good. Everything's rolling good. Just got back from a 5-week deer hunt.
Tell us, well, before you tell us about your deer hunt, let's tell everybody exactly what you do, because you're sitting in your gallery right now. So for the people that are watching and they don't know who you are, and a lot of the people, we have a lot of the same mutual friends, all 6 of them.
It's true.
Let's talk about exactly what you do, Dave, because what you do is pretty interesting and it's totally different than what most people are familiar with.
Yeah, for sure, Fly. Well, basically, I'll start with my mantra. I make art to fish and hunt, and I fish and hunt to make art. So I'm really about the circle of life when it comes to the artwork I make. That's why I make the circle hooks, island style circle hooks, because again, it has a lot to do with the circle of life. So I'm a hook maker from Maui. Been doing that for about 17 years. I've been doing sculpture and wood, bronze, and stone for 28 years. I specialize in marine wildlife. I do all types of work, especially now when I'm encompassing the circle of life thought processes. I'll do pieces that have to do with the mangroves that we have here, the bait fish that live on them, and the tarpon that feed on them. So just try and show the process that I get to see when I am fishing and hunting and into my art. So that's the art part. I also have a really cool furniture line. I do live edge furniture. We mill all of our own logs. I collect wood from all over the Florida Keys, Southern Florida, and now we live in Northern Florida in the New Smyrna Beach area. So we have a lot of really nice woods from up here as well. So we cut our own logs, make the furniture. I also sell slabs as well. I'd say 80% of my years spent doing commission work because after 28 years and doing, I mean, when we were on the show circuit, we were doing 25 shows a year all over the country. So we've been able to settle down a bit and the orders come to us. And so we do very one of a kind custom woodwork. And that's basically what we're doing right now.
So when I met you, you were still in Key Largo,
Yep.
and you had some great stories about the wood carvings you were doing with the trees there in the Keys.
Yeah.
Can you tell everybody a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was actually living in Maui, and I was bouncing from Maui to San Diego, where I do all the bronze work, and then coming to Key Largo and starting a new life. So I ended up leaving leaving Maui because I could make a lot of art and sell it there. Just none of the big stuff would sell because they couldn't fit it in the suitcase. It wasn't leaving the island, basically. So and I was figuring, well, if I can make it in the Keys, that would work, So I started coming to the Keys. The woods there are so beautiful. It reminded me of living in Hawaii, small island, small community, exotic hardwoods. And you can go fishing right there. It's the same deal. You go out of the harbor, out of Lanai, in 3 minutes you're fishing, or go, when you're leaving the harbor in Kona, you got lures in the water. And it's the same thing in the Keys, inshore, offshore, backcountry. So for artistically speaking, working with wood and carving fish for a living, the Keys was absolutely the coolest place I'd ever been, for sure.
We just so you know, you have a fellow Maui brother online, Richard Pata, who is the godfather to Fly Fridays. He's from Maui as
Right
well,
on.
and he's in here. He says, "Oh, Maui's my home." So now, you were down in the How long were you down in the Keys for?
Well, we just left. So we were there. I was there for about 15 years. My wife, Bobby, and I moved there 8 years ago, full time. Uh, we had a beautiful little shop, 180 square foot little workshop, had a little dry room. We've had 4 different gallery locations because in the Keys, and unless you hit it big and you're retired, that's a great way to live in the Keys. But when you're trying to make it happen, it's hard to own the buildings that you're actually working out of. So we always were bouncing around, and it just was getting tough after Irma kicked our butt, and then we made a really good comeback. And then everything just started going up over there. So I was like, you know what? Let's look for some land up in northern Florida. So we found 10 acres of land by near New Smyrna Beach here, built a 3,000 square foot workshop. I mean, I, if you can imagine going from a closet space to actually, it's a gigantic warehouse, and it's got all the wood, all the tools. So it's really opened up a huge avenue for me. So that Keys transition was a really big step because the Keys were very good to us, and I feel as if we were very good to the Keys. So it was a great relationship, as it should be when you live on an island. You should never have to run from the island because maybe you weren't so good there and the island got rid of you. So it was a great opportunity, and we're very blessed to have been there. Still have some very good friends, and you know how it is on an island. It's like with Maui. You know, being Hawaiian's a state of mind. I know guys that
Absolutely.
they're third generation Hawaiians, and then they have kids that weren't born on the island but come over eventually. And being Hawaiian's a state of mind, I believe. So it's a matter of respect and enjoying and loving it as much as it loves you, and that's how it works. And that's why the Keys were so good for us.
I know when I lived out on the Big Island, I was out there for just under 2 years, and it just felt like home. It was just one of those things. I was embraced very quickly, and I loved it. And I go back usually every year, every other year, and it's like I haven't left.
As soon as you get off the plane and you walk outside, you take that first sniff of air in and you smell the earth. I'm like, this is the gateway to the universe. These islands.
It's it's one of the few places that you can play in the snow in the morning and then go to the beach and surf in the afternoon.
Yeah, but that's a long day. You got to get up early to play in the snow in the morning.
Yeah, but and I never knew there was snow until one day I was driving to Hilo for lunch, and I look up and I'm like, that's snow. I'm like, I gotta go up there. And I did, and I was in a pair of board shorts and a t-shirt, and I'm rolling around in snow. It was awesome.
And how many people come to visit and they're, oh, we want to go to the top of the mountain. So for us, we go to top of Haleakala and they're wearing shorts and a tank top. Oh, cool, bro, going to the top of the mountain. Too bad we missed the sunset. And they pull in their little parking lot and everyone's got parkas on and full snow gear and the wind's blowing. It's almost sleet. And they're all, how we're going to go for a hike? Or sure, we're going walking for 2 hours. No.
The best is watching all the trucks that come back down full of snow. They load up the truck with snow so they can play with snow for a couple hours back home on the beach.
That's old school shaved ice, brother.
That's it, man. It's so killer.
Those boys were doing shaved ice 10,000 years ago. Don't let them fool you.
Way before we were
little
around.
Coconut shell, little ice, little hooey.
Good stuff. So, David, how exactly did you get into the whole carving, and how did you find your artistic ability?
Well, it ended up being a great blessing because I survived. I had the chicken pox when I was 28.
Wow.
And I flatlined when I was in the hospital. And I got it from my kids, of course, and I never had them. And the CDC, for LA County CDC, came down and were checking on me because they'd never seen anyone survive a case of the chicken pox like I had. I had them on my eyeballs.
Oh.
Internally, all my organs were covered with them. So, of course, my body shut down and I was moving on. And I got to the gate and they're passing everybody through. Next. They're all, hey, he's here. And they said, nah, he ain't coming in. I said, well, can I go back? So back I went, and I was blessed with the gift of carving fish. And I started with a little piece of oak in my shop. I lost 80 pounds. I held my pants on with both hands when I walked out of the hospital. That's how much of a mess I was. And at that time, I fished about 150 days a year. And just on my own, just fishing machine rods in the car all the time and just fished. And I wanted to make a fish so bad that I had a Rapala fillet knife, was my only tool. Got a piece of oak out of the fire pit, and Bobby's holding this. Here's the piece right here. It's a rainbow trout that I carved with a Rapala fillet knife, my very first piece.
Wow, you still have it.
Yep, and no pictures, just out of memory. And that's when I realized I had something going on. There was another piece here, one piece here. I gave a piece to my buddy at the tackle shop in Oceanside, California, Ken's Custom Reel. And he hung that up, and about a month goes by. He's all, hey, some guy's in here wants to buy that yellowtail you made. And I'm all, no way. He's all, yep. He's all, how much you want for it? And I said, how much is that dinghy outside? Because he was on the harbor. There was a little wood boat, and my son was 3 years old, and I'd been telling him, I'm gonna get a boat. We're gonna go fishing. It'll be great. So he's all, hey, guy wants $300 for it. I said, sell him that. That was my first, it was a big yellowtail. I mean, it's like a $5,000 piece today. And I sold it to the guy for $300. Ken went down, bought the dinghy for me. And that was my first boat that my son and I fished in the Oceanside Harbor for a couple of years.
That's awesome.
That's how I got started.
That is so, it's so cool on a couple of different levels. If we're going to go old school here, it used to be when you were in business, and most of the time you just bartered. If you were a blacksmith, hey, listen, you need horseshoes, but I need vegetables and I need some meat, and people would barter. So the fact that you were able to barter, that's pretty cool.
Well, if you live on island long enough, bartering's everything. There's always some guy who you gotta have some cash at the end of that train. But sometimes there's a lot of cars.
Exactly. There's a lot
I've
of
bartered
bartering
so
back and
much
forth.
on Island. Sometimes I got something back. I'm all, hey, I traded that to so and so last month.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. So you were saying that you just got back from your hunting trip. You're a huge hunter, and you go. Usually, you're out for 4 to 6 weeks a year. Correct
Yeah,
me if I'm wrong.
yeah. That's in the during the rut. I'm definitely gone for that long in the Midwest rut. Like I said, I used to fish 150 at the max, close to 200 days a year. I was doing long ranging and all that out of San Diego and fishing lakes, rivers, streams, British Columbia, Lake El Salto. I've been there 5 or 6 dozen times. And I just started getting into hunting a little bit more because I grew up doing both. So I got myself a bow and just started practicing with that about 20 years ago because it's up close and personal with the bow, just like fishing. I grew up using guns, but the bow was definitely a challenge for me, and it was a good way to get focused in the morning before I could start carving on things to get my mind right. I'd go fling 100 arrows outside and get really focused, and I can go in my shop and start grinding. So the last, I don't know, 12 years, I take 4 to 6 weeks off every mid-October to the end of November, first week of December, and I go archery hunting in Georgia, Missouri, Kansas, sometimes Oklahoma and Pennsylvania, South Carolina quite often. So I have a little circuit loop where we visit family members, and I got a freezer in Missouri. So when I kill a bunch of deer, I transfer them over here and keep the meat over here. When I get to Georgia is my last hunt. So my buddy, the condition is he's got to have freezer space for me to put 7 boned out processed deer in his cooler so I can stay there for a week before I go home.
That's
And
awesome.
we do everything ourselves. Bobby comes with because we get landowner permission. This isn't like where you charter a boat and the captain takes you out, you got a mate, and it's all, we're everything. I get landowner permission. We scout the woods for a couple days, figure out where to put up all our tree stands, execute the hunt, move everything every other day just to be aggressive if we have to. And usually do pretty good on the tags. I'm a meat hunter, so it makes it a lot easier. I don't have to sit there for 5 weeks or 2 weeks waiting for the one. So I get my does out of the way. And as I've progressed in the archery, now I hunt for bigger animals, more mature. If they're 4.5 years old and better, they're gonna be in the Yeti because it's a lot of the smaller deer. It's as much work as a big deer with half the yield. So and that's all we don't buy. We haven't bought Bobby and I haven't bought meat in 12 years.
Wow. Wow. So you're able to, in those 6 weeks, get enough for the whole year.
Yeah, and we target for us. We need 5 deer, and we usually have one left over at the end of the year, and that's what we use to grind with the hogs that we have on our property here in New Smyrna. We're up against the Cape Canaveral Conservation Area, and we have 10.5 acres. So I got a feeder in the middle of the property because my motto on private land is, it ain't never gonna make it to the fence line.
Oh, so you sit there with your bow and arrow and
Yeah.
whack them from your right there
No,
from
I
your.
set up a tree stand in the middle of the woods. I have one for north and one for south facing, and the hogs are very smart. They're on to me, but I have a secret weapon.
What's your secret weapon?
Well, it would work on us, I guarantee you that. Not saying we're pigs, but I call what we call a hog hooch. Get a
A
5-gallon bucket, fill it up halfway with corn, 12 ounces of orange soda from the Tractor Supply because it's cheap. I buy handles of rot gut liquor for $10 a half gallon, pour a couple shots in there, then some deer molasses, shake it up, cover it for a few days. The corn swells up with all that. And I'll put that out 3 times and some water, and 3 times every day I'll get out there and put a little bit of this out right at the end of the afternoon. And those things come running for it. Not that they're alcoholics,
but they like the
but they
taste.
like the hog hooch.
They like the now. Do you end up sitting every day?
No, I hunt the win because they're
Okay,
really on their game. So, and once you get one, it takes them 3 or 4 days to reorganize to come back because they know I got them.
that's
So
that's
I only
hilarious.
take probably 2 a month. And now, mind you, this is a lot of animals at the end of the year, but we donate. I probably end up with close to 10 deer every year, 20 or so hogs. But we just keep a couple of the hogs and 5 of the deer, and the rest we have a plethora of people that we donate to. A couple Marine buddies of mine, they're in their late 70s. They can't hunt anymore because they're just blown out. And a couple neighbors, they got congestive heart failure, 50 years old, and these guys are hardcore hunters, man, and they can't even leave the driveway. So we have a bunch of people in our circle that we hook up with meat. And anything over that, there's a food bank here in New Smyrna that we give quite a few hogs to.
That's awesome. That's awesome. They don't go to waste, and everybody knows here in the state of Florida, there's
We have a
way
hog
too.
problem here. Hey, two hogs rear 132 pigs a year.
Wow.
Two.
That's if I'm correct, they can do up to 4 litters a year.
Yeah, dependent. Here in our area, we've noticed 3 because I got the same sows coming back.
Uh-huh.
Because I don't kill the big sows. And like I said, I'm not a trophy guy. So I like my saying on these pigs are from 60 pounds to shoebox.
So
Or
you don't
not,
go too big. You go from medium size and
yeah,
smaller.
that's a number 16 skillet. And it's called a pan pig.
Well, you know what I did one time? I had a hunting lease on the other side of the state. Well, on the other side of the lake. This has been years now. I shot one and I made a beer butt pig.
Yeah.
I was very, very surprised. It was delicious.
Nope, it's good. And because this is all we eat, we have a huge recipe book of different ways to cook it. I typically cook the meat. Bobby prepares everything else.
Now, do you also grow vegetables?
Yeah, well, especially this year because we have the extra property and because of this thing going on, we decided to grow. It's a thing. It's a thing. We decided to grow our own vegetables. I'm like, well, all right, we'll just stay. We want to stay home. We're going to make it all happen. So we have all our own animals. Started growing vegetables. Thing is, you know what we're best at growing is jalapeno peppers.
How many of those are you popping out? No pun intended.
Man cannot live on jalapeno pepper alone, my friend.
Wow. Wow.
So next year we found a local farmer's market. We're going to trade him our bumper crops of jalapenos for all the other good stuff we need.
Oh my gosh. And let me tell you, I love jalapenos.
Well, that's too. And I think we can cook them at least 52 different ways.
Oh, I know when I make a homemade burger, it always has jalapenos in it.
Oh yeah.
I love jalapenos.
Well, one of our favorites, mac and cheese with ground hog and venison with jalapenos on the top. Forget about it.
Wait a second. How'd you go from a Hawaiian accent all the way to
I'm in Florida, man.
A South Jersey accent? We are kind of a melting pot. There's like everybody here in Florida.
There is everybody here. And there's a good reason everyone's here. It's the fishing capital of the world as far as everything. We have great hunting. There's more things to do here, more pubs, bars. Was theaters. You got all the playgrounds everywhere. But Florida's a great adult playground for sure.
It's awesome. I grew up here and I run into a lot of friends. Oh, it's so boring. I'm like, what are you talking about? How can you look at it and say it's boring? There's so much stuff to do. Whether you want to go fishing, you want to go diving, you want to go inshore fishing, go offshore fishing, go hunting.
The southeast coast of Florida's got some of the best diving in the world. I have guys that tell me they go travel all over Fiji, Philippines. And they go off of Fort Lauderdale and Palm Beach and say this is the most incredible dives they've ever been on. Sponges like thrones you can lay into. I mean,
It's unbelievable. And one of the greatest things for the diving is our current. We have the Gulf Stream. So you can literally get dropped off in one spot and the boat will drift with you and you can cover 4 or 5 miles
Yeah, no, on one dive.
on one dive
Yeah, no, it's pretty amazing. And like I said, with the fishing, people always, what's the best time of year to come fishing? I'm all,
all
it's
year.
like, when's the best time to go to the Keys? When you can.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, it doesn't matter, you know, and that's especially down there, you're fishing or you're drinking. And if you ain't fishing, you're drinking. So, you know, and the inshore, the offshore, the backcountry, the deep dropping, the sword fishery right now off of Alamorada the last 3 years is global epic.
It is.
I don't,
It
there's
truly
nowhere
is.
that's like the Keys in daytime sword fishing. No way.
It's impressive and I hate to say it's a guaranteed thing because there's nothing in life that's guaranteed, but it's one of those things if you do it enough, you know where to go, you're getting bites.
If you're going to spend $2,400 to go fish for the day, sword fishing's a good bet down here. I mean, you're more likely to catch a swordfish in Alamorada than a blue marlin in Cabo a lot of the times. It's just the way it is.
Would you
Especially
ever
especially last
imagine
month.
would you ever imagine that
No.
Florida you had a better chance of catching a big swordfish than a lot of places catching a blue
Imagine
marlin?
fly back in what, even up to 10 years ago was always off of Miami, you know, those big levels, flat shelf that slowly tapered down, you know, into the Gulf Stream or into the slot. I mean, that was it, you know. So that's pretty
It's
good fishing. And the tarpon fishing's, I took my kids always come out to fish every year. And of course it's on my charters. I'm like, you know, this is when I go fish. And so, you know, my daughter brought her fiance out this last year and his first time ever in the Keys. And I'm thinking, you ain't gonna catch my fish on this trip. Right out the gate, 150 plus pound tarpon, 2 hours, got to the leader 5 times. And he's like, oh, I want to get, you know, we got to get a picture of it. And I'm all, got this on video. We're not
what
going
else
to
do you
kill this.
need?
We're not killing this fish and you ain't going to get it. You know, so it's finally just let it go. You know, but first time ever, you can't go to many places and do that.
That's yeah. Listen, the tarpon fishing down. Actually, the whole state has some great between Boca Grande. Uh, I know here off of Palm Beach during the early summer, late spring, early summer, uh, on the outgoing tide, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's really really good fishing for
Well,
tarpon.
and here in New Smyrna, I mean, of course, the locals say this is the redfish capital of the country. I'm like, yeah, you go to Louisiana.
Yeah, them boys from Louisiana may
Good
want to
fishing
fight you
down
over
there.
that.
And I'm not, that's like saying the Keys is the real South. That ain't going to get you anywhere either.
Man,
Because it's
want
not.
you want to piss somebody off? Tell somebody from Alabama that
Yeah,
Florida's the
I got
South.
some coon ass friends. If they're listening right now, they're throwing stuff.
Exactly.
Probably shooting a BB gun at one of my bronzes, just put little tink marks on it just because.
Speaking of one of your bronzes, your the trophy, the perpetual trophy for the Gulf Cup, which is one of your statues. I bought it for the perpetual trophy, is now in Louisiana.
Awesome.
So the Gulf Cup winner weighed their fish out of Cypress Cove. So
Yeah, we saw that.
they were able to take the trophy from Orange Beach, Alabama, and move it over to Cypress Cove.
Those guys
They might be pinging it there for all we know. And
hey,
if they weren't, they're doing it now.
I make them tough. Good luck.
That's you know what? Speaking of making them tough, actually, that trophy rode out. I forget what hurricane it was, out of Port Aransas, Texas. It rode out a storm. The place got flooded, the tackle shop, everything.
Man.
The statue lived on.
Yep. No, I've had a few of them come back to me. After one in the Bahamas recently got just, and you know, Captain Skip Smith sent me the perpetual for one of their events, and the bill's broken off, the fin's broken off. Oh, can you fix that? I'm like, how? But I did. And, it
That
was like
that
one of
was
those
a
things.
Cat 5 storm.
Yeah. And he's, oh, the second floor of the hotel fell on it. And I'm all, oh, is that all?
Oh,
And I've had
oh,
other pieces. Mike Leach brought me a piece like 14 years ago where the whole slab, there was nothing left but a slab, and my sculpture was laying on the slab
wow.
intact. It was just beat up. And he's all, hey, can you fix that? Yeah, I'll.
Uh,
So it's
it is.
amazing to hear those little, it's pretty strange that you're like, God, all of that survived it.
It's, you know what? That's just the way life is somehow.
Yeah,
It's
it
one of
is.
those things. It's like, how did that survive from this storm?
Yeah, well, it's not me saying this, but it's been said that my art is feel good art because, when you buy something like that and you look at it and you've got to be smiling and appreciate it and, and know that it's made with care. And, my quality control inspector is God. If it's good enough to give to God, it's done. That's
That's
pretty high standard.
that's very high standards.
And that's how we do everything here. So everything I make is done with a standard like that because I'm just a man.
that's that's you and me both.
Yeah.
You and me both. Talking about your trophies, when I bought that one for the golf cup, I drove it from Florida all the way to Port Aransas to give it away. But I had it wrapped up and it was in the back seat and I got pulled over. And it's a pretty tall trophy and it's completely wrapped up in paper towels because I don't want to scratch it. I don't want nothing. I got pulled over and who do you have in the back seat? Officer, I promise you that is not a person. You're welcome to look at it. I'll unlock the door. But I had the seatbelt on it and everything wrapped with like 5 towels. And
He just couldn't get past the cadaver smell. What's the deal?
yeah, wow. It was one of those things you just, in life, when you think about it, yeah, that's just pretty funny.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's
Well,
just pretty funny.
it's funny when shipping this stuff because we ship things all over the world. I mean, the stuff with the Saudis the last year that you were involved with and all that, and that was a really cool event. But you got to pack these things up like it's going to outer space, and you figure you got 400 torque tons of G-force pushing down on it. I mean, you have to think of all of these things we're doing because we have a lifetime warranty on all of our products. And it doesn't matter what happens unless it's in a fire, because I can't fix that. But if anything, so I make them and they're engineered to withstand that type of stuff. There's a purpose behind just making something cool.
Yeah, you got to make it where it's going to withstand so you can tell the stories behind it. That's the best part.
Well, art and time and history, when if you look back at history, before written word, it was art. They drew symbols of things that we know that you can identify with. And it's the same with art. There's the only thing that's left over from ancient man is their art. Even a lot of the buildings are gone, but this art lasts. And it'll all be long gone. And these bronze pieces, those things are pretty much last forever. So it's a really unique thing to be a part of.
Where did you come up with doing the circle hooks? Because you have one on your necklace. I just so happened you sent me one yesterday and I got it today and I see them all behind you up on the shelf. Where did you get inspired to do the circle hooks?
Well, the first time I saw a circle hook, I was it was about 30 years ago. Went to Fiji, went there surfing. Saw a couple guys from New Zealand had some hooks, and they were very stylized, like a Maori style hook. And one of them had it on a shirt, and I was like, "Wow, that's really cool." Didn't think anything of it. 10 years go by. One of my buddies has this wood hook on the wall, and he's like, "Hey, bro, you should start making things like that, man." I'm like, "Yeah, everybody." When somebody asks me, "You should make that," I say, "Write that down in the memo section of a check." If you think that's what I should be making. So I was all, yeah, cool. So I started making those, and it was funny. The first couple I made, they were like, took me hours to make one of these, and I couldn't get more than $60 for one. I'm not. there's no way this will ever work. And today I sell those same hooks for the same type of hook, for $600, $700, $800. Of course, there's a lot more to it than just what it was, but I really didn't know the meaning of it, and I wasn't representing it. So that's why I felt there wasn't really no perceived value. So here's a cool story about the hook. When I started going to Maui, one of my buddies there, Hal, who he actually found me. He's an island elder. He's a storyteller, and he's like, "Oh, I like the hooks that you're doing. The big wood hooks. So he took me to other warriors around the island. I was getting the explanation of what this hook really meant to the Hawaiian culture and the Polynesian culture, for that matter, and then the entire Pacific Rim, because every culture from Alaska through the Asiatics all the way into the South Pacific, back up the rim through Mexico, these fish hooks were everything. Had to do with the circle of life, as the key to the refrigerator, as the old timers would say. If you want fresh meat, you better make hooks, young man. So the first hook that I made one out of stainless steel. Carved this thing, hand carved. My second year on the island, I come back, and because I'm going back and forth every month, and I give it to my bro Hal, and we're on the dock, and Lanai, and he's looking at it, and he's all, that looks cool. He's all, who said you could make that? I'm like, even today I get the chicken skin. Just think, when he said, who said you could make that? I knew where he was going. He's all, you don't come here, step on our toe, take our sand, because once you take all the rocks off the island, they're holding on to a coconut tree to stay alive. That's the thought. He's all, this is our heritage. And he just throws it in the water. He's all, give it back to the sea. He's all, you're not ready. A couple years go by, just doing the bro thing, hanging out with everybody, started being more humble. I wasn't, the whole story was I wasn't humbled, because my nickname was Ue Valle, which your Hawaiian buddy's laughing right now, because that means crybaby, because I wasn't very humble. So once I became humbled, he comes up behind me one time, taps me on the shoulder, and he said, hey, you can make the hook. So I just started making them. Of course, the first batch I made, I brought to Maui and gave everything away to everybody. And that's how it started. And I was given the blessing to make the hooks to catch fish to feed the family.
That's awesome.
And you know why it's awesome is because it's true. That's the one thing that you have to stand on. If something's really cool, really happening, it's got to have truth to it, or it's nothing.
Then it's just a story.
And I make these hooks. I've made dozens of these and caught everything on them but a billfish.
You haven't caught a billfish on them?
Nope. And I've tried. I've gone out a couple times in the Keys to catch sailfish. We never got them. But what happened is, because we were trying a couple rigs with hooks, and then with metal, the red or steel wire, and with my hooks.
Uh-huh.
We didn't catch any sailfish, but we caught a half a dozen sharks on my hooks, because we figured that the sharks weren't going for the bait because they can sense the wire on the hook, and went for mine because there's no metal impulse. And we would hook them through the back right underneath the dorsal fin, and the hook it floats up just like the fin on the fish, so it looked really natural. And and these sharks were getting hooked on the outside lip or outside the teeth. And we landed all these crazy sharks, and we're like, holy crap. So those hooks were catching 120, 130 pound sharks.
Wow.
We've got yellowfin tuna, albacore, the blackfin, 20 pound red grouper, 80 pound stingrays, snapper, all kinds of stuff.
I never knew that you even used them. I thought it was just for art.
Yeah, well, you have to make them thinner because they have to actually do the job.
Uh-huh.
And we make them, the reason they're made thicker for, they've been doing the thicker ones to wear, I'd probably say 40, 50 years.
Okay.
Because before that, it was actually a real hook that if you're on an island somewhere and some guy's making them, you actually bought a real fishing hook.
Exactly.
But they would, if you and because they're hooks, they snag on everything. So you would, I got the Christmas tree yesterday. I'm pulling it out of the truck. It's got the net on it. I'm like, the fish still work, bro.
You're all
still good.
Oh my gosh.
So, today they're worn with a little more of a sturdy factor to them. So, they last. I like using, all hook makers like to use a material that they have a spiritual connection with.
Uh-huh.
And I like using antler because a moose antler, deer, it's a water and a land animal like me. And it's something that I hunt. So their spirit is definitely inside of me. And they shed them every year. So I don't have to kill that animal to use it. It's engineering wise, it's about as durable as a piece of material that you can get. It lasts in the water. They don't break down. They're very durable. And it has a cool connection, that spirit, the moose, you've got the strength and wisdom. I like using alligator scoots. Same thing. It has the same native spiritual discipline as a moose and alligator, believe that or not, because they're both land and water animals.
That's pretty interesting. I didn't realize that that's what you were using for all of them.
Yeah, and I like to use the metals because it is a marketing thing, and not everyone likes that natural thing. So I make the fancy ones out of bronze, gold, silver, all different types of metals. And I also like to use the hardwoods when I'm cutting I cut a piece off of one of my sculptures, and I see that beautiful grain in that little piece of wood. I'm like, oh, that'll make a good hook someday. So I've got boxes of all these little cool pieces to make hooks with at some point.
That's pretty cool. Now, what other things, for people that aren't familiar with your artwork, what other things do you do besides the hooks?
Well, in the jewelry, I carve all kinds of feathers, little, I do miniature fish, any fish I can make in a miniature. I like the challenge of doing that because it's not an easy task, and I can make 10 times more money carving a bigger fish in the same amount of time, but it's something that I enjoy the challenge of doing. And the other products that we like to do is the bronze line. And we have all different types of fish, from little small ones to great big marlin busts. Yeah, and we got some of these marlin pieces right here. We use these for trophies in different colors and sizes and patinas. And we use the local coral. What's cool about these is actually the thought process, the wood, the stone, and the metal.
So a little bit of everything.
It's a little bit of everything. And those are key elements. Next to the water, those are the 4 elements that make things rock, that and the air that you breathe. So I like combining those. Plus it has the elements of the island and the off island, and then the fish that are out there. So I like combining those together. And then our furniture line's pretty neat. Right now, because we did this big move and all the things going on the last 11 months, and I've been hunting for 6 months. When I'm in my tree stand for 8 hours a day, I develop new things that I want to do. As I count leaves bouncing off of tree branches and hitting the ground in silence.
That's the great thing about
a lot of thinking.
That's the great thing about fishing and hunting. There's all this time to think. I know some of my greatest ideas I've gotten while I was fishing. Yeah. You're just sitting there quietly, and there could be 100 people around me, and I'm just kind of looking at the baits, and I'm like, oh, I should try this. And I know my phone, I have in the notepad, I have all kinds of ideas. Some of them I end up doing, some of them I don't. But it's an idea. Yeah. And you write it down.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I do have a post. I'm a note taker for sure, because I can't remember nothing. So I'm definitely, my wife's like, well, I can't believe you remembered that. I'm like, well,
there's a medical term for that, right? It's called CRS.
Yeah.
Can't remember shit.
Yeah. Well, I definitely
suffer
that.
I suffer from it bad.
Definitely have some of that. There's no doubt about that.
You know what? It's just we have so many other things on our mind. We forget certain
Well,
things.
I like being a thinker. It's like when we go on these long drives or sitting in the stand or drive, it's same with marlin fishing, bro. Hours of boredom for moments of glory. And there's no different in when you're sitting in a tree stand with icy rain hitting you on the side of the face. And I don't know, I'm not so much bored. I'm trying to stay alive. But you get to do a lot of thinking. And I'm not a gamer. I don't play any games. I just got my first smartphone a month and a half ago. I've been flip phoning it because I text and I do phone calls. Um, I'm blessed to have a Bobby because Bobby does all that stuff. When I need a weather report, hey, what's the wind doing now?
You asked Bobby.
Yeah, and I'm texting her from a tree stand, and she's either in town or 1,000 miles away, giving me the wind report from my tree. But I love the part of being able to think things out all the time, because you get to review and go over, and a lot of times you're going to know if that thing's going to work or not before you even start.
Absolutely.
What I do, all these drawings and pieces of art, everything's one of a kind. So I don't have blueprints to build each home. I mean, and starting some of these bigger projects, it's like building a house. Takes me 6 months to 8 months to start to finish a piece, and hundreds and hundreds of hours. And there's no, oh, well, today we need to do this. Oh, don't forget this permit before this guy comes in. And where's the plumber? So there's no do-overs in sculpture. Or what I call a do-over is fancy firewood.
Oh my God.
Get rid of it as fast as you can.
That's got to be heartbreaking.
Cut the head off and do a bust.
That's got to be heartbreaking, though.
It used to happen in the beginning, and because I think a lot. Before I start a piece, I'll get the log or the piece of wood I'm going to use, a substantial piece. It's called living with it. So I put a little scarf around it, and we go for a walk in the yard. No, I'm put my little leash, and I try and drag. Come on, man, walk, you lazy log.
Walk.
No, but I put it on the bench, and I turn it and spin it, and every other day I put in a different spot, and then I get that right, and then you think and think and think, and then the day comes, walk in that shop and lay it down with the chainsaw and go at it. I call them commitment cuts, because you shove that saw in there, where the fin's out or the jaw line of a marlin bill. That's a commitment. There's no going back like this. That's commitment.
Raise it up higher so everybody can see it. It's your wedding ring.
My wedding band. That's commitment.
It's tattooed on there.
Yeah.
But that's
as an artist, it's really important to keep that finger.
It's very important to keep all fingers, man.
Exactly. All fingers matter.
Exactly. Now that you brought up the fact that you start with the chainsaw, how do you go from there when you start with the chainsaw? How far do you go? And then what's the next step?
Well, it's pretty cool with that chainsaw part, because like I said, I do commitment cuts. So I cut typically on a larger piece to within a 1/4 inch of the finished product.
Really?
Like when I'm done, the roadside chainsaw carver guy would be all, voila, and that's where I start. Like when those guys when they stop, that's where I start, because that's, say, I've done some of these 6 foot tall blue marlins chasing a mahi. A piece like that, that's probably about 4.5 to 6.5 hours of chainsawing. Then it's, 40 to 50 hours of grinding with a 24 grit disc. And there's probably 40 or 50 hours of carving with heavy 4 and 6 bladed bits doing 50,000 RPM and a handheld die grinder, to where I blow the bearings out of the grinder after about 2 hours, because I run my compressor at 130 PSI and the tools are only made for 90. But
Wow.
They're spinning so fast. These are tools for chasing stainless steel in a CNC machine. They're not made for going on the end of a handheld die grinder. So I lay into that wood as if I'm carving with a laser beam. You know, I have no patience. If I had patience, I'd make one piece every 2 years and use a butter knife. So I'm on the impatient side. So I'm going as hard. And even though I think I'm going fast, I'm still going to be 200 hours into that when I'm done.
Wow.
And then the sanding, you know, it goes from the chainsaw, 24 grit, 60 grit, 80 grit, 120, 220, 320. And I'm sanding the same eyeball and the same part over and over and over and over again times a 10 to the squared 10th root of the 15th power. I mean, it's an overwhelming math problem to get it to where a fly, you don't want, the thing is like, you don't want a fly to even be able to land on it, dude.
I won't take that personally. I won't take that personally.
I mean, where it's so slick and so smooth, every little pigtail of a sanding grit is off. And then it's 5 coats of oil, one, and then it's all hand rubbed off. Another one. Sometimes it's 8. The wood dictates when it's finished. When it finally just pops, you know you're done.
So it's
Look up and say, "Am I done? Please, I don't want to touch it again."
but and that's a pretty good point, because a lot of times is a lot of things we do. Let's say you're fixing an engine or building something like that. It's like, okay, all the nuts and bolts are in there. I'm done. But
Yeah.
what you're doing is it's artwork. I mean, you could literally keep on tinkering with it if you wanted to for hours.
Well, it's like building a house and making sure every Phillips head screw is like turned just like that.
Oh,
I mean, it's overwhelming. Then you think you're never going to sell that house when you're done. You know, and people, and what a great one is all, God, doesn't that kill you when you sold that? You know, and I'm all, no. You know, they're, well, what's your favorite piece? The last one I sold.
that's
I mean, that's why I do this. You know, I mean, I love every piece I make to death, every single piece. I've never made anything where at the end of it, I'm like, yeah, you know, that's just doesn't happen.
well, when it comes to that's when it becomes fancy firewood. That's exactly when it becomes fancy fire.
Yeah,
No,
and you don't, and you can't give away something like that, because to me, when you give a gift, it better be the best fruit on the tree goes to your person you're giving that to, not something that you think, well, I'll never sell this. Why don't we donate it or give it away? That's not what we do.
yeah. Well, you want something to be that high of a level and that high of a quality,
Yeah.
which is a huge thing.
And
Now,
each piece is one of a kind. So I only have to sell that one. You know, I don't have 1,000 widgets I need to sell, and they're all coming off the belt.
n-
You know, just
they're all
we
unique.
don't, even with the trophies we do for tournaments, you know, every single one's hand done.
How neat is it to think that your artwork is all over the world?
It's a beautiful feeling.
How cool is that?
Beautiful thing. Well, it's funny when there's 2 things come to mind. I'm all, wow, you finally made it. Because it takes that, when that happens, it's sort of some affirmation. And the second thing is that it, like what you do, how long did it take to get here? You know, going to 25 boat shows a year, 10 different art shows, giving everything away your first 3 or 4 years. I mean, um, probably get a divorce in there somewhere.
That's why I've never
Seriously,
been married.
it takes the ultimate in commitment and longevity to stick with something like this. And, you know, and my biggest blessing is Bobby, for sure. I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't even be having this conversation if it wasn't for Bobby, because I couldn't do this computer thing, for one. But she helps run this business. She's everything on the other half of this. You know, when you cut this fruit in half, as the Bobby and David show,
Yeah.
you know, and our seed that we have in the middle is the gift that we're giving forward. So that's the way we operate it. Bobby runs the whole business, does everything. I make the art, and we do the fishing and hunting thing together.
That's awesome that you guys take that time out to do that. A
But
lot of times,
we're together. It's a good thing we're such in love. This would be a horrible problem.
man, you guys make it work, and that's the most awesome thing.
Yeah.
That's the most awesome thing, because there's how many people they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. Have their wife or husband with them 24/7,
No,
and
no,
you guys do it everywhere.
it's got to be a special commitment for sure. I mean, you got to be really good friends, got to be able to learn how to deal with each other. And heck, we've already been married before, so we already know all of the problem things. But the problem is she forgets that I was already married for 20 years, and that's why I can't hear nothing.
What'd you say? Well, oh, you were
Now,
talking.
plus of all the hunting, all the tools. I mean, come on, give a guy a break.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The tools, you need the tools, you know, to make for the work, and the hunting is the relaxation part.
Yeah, no, it's all encompassing. This whole it's a beautiful thing when you're living your life like you say it is. We are a true circle of life family. Everything we do, especially what we're doing now on the property we have. We're calling it Wirth Woods. It's an old
Worthwoods.
tree farm. There's 400 planted trees on this property in rows. We've got 200 giant oak trees. They're in rows. I mean, they planted these to sell. So what we're doing is we're harvesting every other one, and then we replant them and keeping the grove going. So we're doing about 15 trees a year. We're milling this wood and making furniture out of the wood that's growing on our land.
That's pretty cool.
Talk about using an agriculturally supplied, sustainable thing. And these trees are full of acorns. So all the squirrels, the rabbits, the deer, the hogs, the birds are all feeding off of this. We're feeding off of them. They're feeding off of us. And we're using these trees. It's their home. It's a shelter. It's providing our shelter now. I built a staircase in our house out of these trees off of our property.
How cool is that?
It's super cool. When I first started doing this 28 years ago in my earlier life in California, I was planting trees to use 20, 30 years from then to do what I'm doing now. And of course, after the divorce, that property sold. Go by there every once in a while. When I go back, those trees are 90 feet tall now and huge 24-inch base. I'm like, God, that would have been it. And now we just got this property 2 years ago, and then completing that dream that I had in my head 30 years ago.
That
I
is
actually get to do that.
that's cool. Now, you said your daughter still lives in California, correct?
Yep, she's in San Diego for a little while longer, and she may be going up to the Sacramento area because it's the whole thing going on in California. I'm trying to get her to get out of there, but they're tied into that state because they mountain bike, they ski, they surf, and they fish. And I get why they're letting all their friends are still there, but and they're still young.
And they're still young. They're still
Figure it
young.
out. They'll figure
You know
it out.
what? California is a beautiful state. The
Emo's
actual
beautiful. There's
land.
nothing like it in the planet,
It's
topography wise.
that's a different story. That's my other podcast on another channel.
Hey,
This one's called.
I have fished in every county in California.
That's pretty cool.
Every single county.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Fly fished every little stream you could possibly think of up north. Like
Wow.
all of them. Hella bitchin' fishing.
Really?
See, in SoCal, it's bitchin'. In northern NorCal, it's hella bitchin'.
Hella bitching. Listen, the couple of times, I say a couple of times, I've been out to California a few dozen times, and I love it out there. It's everything I've ever done out there, whether it's fishing or hiking or just hanging out. I've always enjoyed it.
Stay out of the city. You'll love California.
I'm not a city guy. It's funny you were talking about the Keys earlier and being on a rock, being on an island. I've been on more rocks than you can imagine, and I love it. I love being on islands, except when I'm on vacation. When I go on vacation, I like going in the woods.
Yeah.
I like to go hide. I don't want to see, if I see water, I want to see a river, a stream.
Yeah.
That's it. My time. And it's not that I hate the water. It's just, that's what I do all the time. I want to be in the woods. I want to see animals. That's what I love to do.
Yeah. Well, because we have a lifestyle occupation. So our vacations it's almost, you can't say you're on a year-round vacation or year-round working, because I mean, when we're working, I call it's 8 days a week,
Exactly.
10, 12 hours a day. We're self-employed, and that's two of us going at it, and then when we do our hunt, that's more like field research, we'll call that.
When I go on vacation or leave, the only thing I do is I try not to answer the phone from 8 in the morning until 5 at night. That's because, like you said, when you own your own business, it's never ending. There's always something, answering emails, doing all that stuff. But it's a lifestyle. I love what I do.
Oh yeah, dude, it's cliche. Love what you do and do what you love, man. And
Exactly.
You're hooked.
It's no pun intended.
Never.
Now, David, if somebody wants to find you, what's the best way to find you?
Through some binoculars.
Through some through a scope.
Not through a scope. Never look for me in crosshairs, because I already see you.
If somebody wanted to check out your artwork, what's the best way for them to check it out?
Well, we have a great website. It's davidwirth.com, WIRTH. And then you could reach Bobby at bobbywirth@att.net.
That's
so,
perfect.
Otherwise, our website's got everything on there. We do PayPal, and we ship the next day. We do all kinds of custom orders, especially fishing tournaments out there. We have a great tournament package. We usually take about 40% off right out the gate. If it's a charity event, with a tournament order, we donate something to your auctions. And something we're really into right now is I'm on an IGFA committee where I'm in the education department committee, and any tournament that wants to start a junior angler program on their tournament, I will donate a trophy for free.
Wow. You hear that? You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. It's funny you say that, because 10% of all my proceeds from my book go to the junior angler program for IGFA.
My focus has been with the junior angler program and the education department at the IGFA for 20 years as a rep.
Wow.
And a corporate sponsor.
Wow. Yesterday I had the pleasure for my podcast, Lily Sims. She's 15 years old, and she has broken 6 billfish records already, and down in Australia. Just amazing that we have a great new generation coming up.
Yeah, and that's why one of the things I love about what you're doing too, because you're talking about these kids and promoting these kids, and man, it's everything. It's almost a cliche type of a thing, but man, it's so real right now that these kids need to get out there and fish and not be freaking out about things. I mean, that wide open water, that wind, the salt spray, standing in a stream. I mean, any of that is you parents, you cannot pay for that. You have to live it and do it, and your rewards will be reaped by the bale loads.
Exactly.
Guaranteed.
Get them outside. And one of the things I love doing, because of how I've gotten into this technology with social media, and you have all these young kids and they want to talk to people and they want to find the information. They know how to use the technology. What they're lacking is the experience in the fishing world. And I try to open up the doors for any and all of them. If they're really committed to the sport, listen, I learned, I don't mind. People had open doors for me. So I try to return that favor, open doors for anybody.
And it's people interaction.
Exactly.
Interact with peoples, I mean, and that's part of our hookup. What we love to do is We do things with these kids, get them from the school to come over, or I'll go to the school and do a presentation on marine wildlife and art, just to let them know, hey, if this is something you love to do, then do it.
Then do it. Then do it. You don't, when people hear, so what do you do for a living? I'm a fisherman.
Yeah.
That's it. And the people have always said, well, what's your goal with what you're doing? My goal is when I die, people say he was a fisherman.
Yeah.
That was it.
Amen.
If that's what they say about me when I'm gone, then I made it.
Yeah. I was mentioned you to somebody earlier today, and they're all, that's that Marlin guy. I was like, he's in the Marlin world. That's
I am in the Marlin world. I've been trying to branch out to more because there's so many, not everybody gets the chance to go Marlin fishing.
No.
And, but I don't know if you know this number. We've added 10 million new fishermen in the United States since COVID started. Yeah. 10 million new. So right now there's 60 million fishermen in the United States. And that's that we can count. If you're under 16, you don't need a fishing license, and if you're over 65, you don't need a fishing license. So there's no way to track those.
Yeah.
But these are fishermen, and one of the reasons I decided I wanted to write the book was to kind of say, hey, listen, you're new to this. Here's a guide to what we do.
Yeah.
Whether you want to carp fish or catfish or marlin fish, this is what we do. And it doesn't really matter what you fish for. This is a fraternity. Yeah. We're brothers and sisters in it together. I've been to a lot of countries where I'm the only person that speaks English on a boat.
Yeah.
But we all love fishing.
Yeah. And kids don't care. They just want to go fish, man. I mean, how many kids, you take them out, you got all the rods and the reels. Next thing, they're looking on the shoreline for their own fishing line.
Exactly.
They found a wad of old rusty hooks, and they just want to do it themselves. I mean, you get 5-year-olds out there on the rod, and they're like, just let the kid fish, man.
Just
and, string on a can.
Exactly. Let them be outside. Look at the shells. Look at the birds. To this day, when we go places, when me and my girlfriend go places and we're fishing, I usually don't even have a rod in my hand. I just have the camera and I'm taking pictures of her catching fish and pictures of the birds and the rivers. And that's what I love to do. And I'm going fishing tomorrow. And I'm charging up all my cameras because I like to capture it. The first 20 years of my profession, my career, I have very few photos. And I'm like, I'm not going to make that mistake again. I want to share it. I want to take the pictures and show it to people. And never on any of my social media will you find a fishing report ever. To me, it's not about what I caught. It's the time I spent with my friends. That's what fishing is to me, is time I get to spend with my friends and help my friends and stuff like that. And that's why I do what I do. I enjoy helping people out, and we're social creatures,
especially this business. I mean, that's what's been so weird the last few months. I'm like, man, this is because I'm not like a huge kind of people person, but I like being around my like-minded brothers and sisters. And, I miss having that interaction at a tournament or at a banquet, or the captain's meeting, things like that. I'm definitely missing some of that stuff. Looking forward to that, to get back and handshaking and bro hugging, man. I'm
a hugger. I'm a hugger, man. I'm in so much trouble, right? They look at me, they're like, you can't do that stuff anymore. I'm like, listen, I'm going to do it. You're my brother. I want to give you a hug. I'm happy to see you.
Right on. Bring it in.
Just give me some love. I know you want it. Just come in. Come on in. Come in.
I ain't scared. I'm good with my soul, man.
Exactly. And listen, my soul. Being of Latin heritage, that's the way I was brought up. You always hug somebody when you haven't seen them for a while. You give them a big hug. And this whole thing right now. Hold on, let me spray you down first.
I'm good.
No, I'm not going to do that. Come over here.
That makes me sick.
Yeah, give me a hug, man. You know what makes me sick is not being around all my friends and family.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
it's tough. It's tough.
uh,
That's one thing when we did this hunt, we got to hang out with some family members, so that was great. And even fishing with a guide buddy, at least you got somebody you can relate with on a boat and get out there and just breathe and get some elbow room in you.
exactly, exactly. So, Dave, on that note,
Okay.
do you have anything else you want to add or subtract before we wrap this thing up? I'm gonna
No,
leave that up to you.
everything's cool. I really appreciate the opportunity with you for
Mm,
sure. And
Man, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to sit here talking with everybody.
my pleasure. Hey, I put the hog hooch out a little early tonight, but
Oh,
everything's
did you?
normally I wait till sunset, but we're good. But
Listen,
if
hey,
anybody wants to help us out as in the art business, definitely buy some art from your local guy or somebody that you know uh, for Christmas present or something, because you know art purchases are usually a liquid income sort of a thing, especially when you get into the higher end stuff. But there's all kinds of facets to the art. I mean, we have stuff from $45 to $45,000. So I just think it's important to remember that artists, musicians, and chefs, there's no equal shake in anything right now. And I'm not changing my thoughts on my future because I like to think forward and progressive into my future thoughts. So I'm going along as business as usual and keep making things and keep doing what I'm doing. So I'd like everyone else out there to get their head in there and do the same thing.
there
Be
you
a
go.
part of
Listen,
this because
you're
I still am.
you you're do what you love, so you just continue doing what you love to do. I
Oh, there's
mean,
no change in this. A guy, imagine me at Home Depot. Guy'd ask me something about wood. I said, well, the grain structure of this pine is actually, it's more like the
I
wild timber in this
I
forest.
I tell kids that all the time. I had one. I was still on the real tight, so this is uh, I don't know, maybe 2009, and there was this young kid, and I'm not going to put any names out in case he's watching. And I say he's a young kid. Back then, he was probably 22 years old. Every day we come in from fishing, and he's always got this sour look on his face. And I'm like, "What's the matter?" And he's like, "Man, you guys caught 5 today, and we only saw one. We didn't catch it." I go, "First of all, number one, you're fishing on the North Drop, the most one of the most famous blue marlin spots in the world, and you're getting paid to do it." I go, "You can't be mad." And I go, "Second of all, I'm on this boat." I says, at that point I was probably 12 years into being on the reel tight, and uh I'm like, I'm 12 years on this boat with the same captain. My captain's been here for 18 years. Everybody else has been on the boat for 12 years. I go, we've been fishing together. We're family. I mean, we know what each other eat and drink and what clothes we wear. I go, don't compare yourself to us. Compare to what you did yesterday.
Yeah.
And we did this for a month. Every time we come in, he had this pissy look on his face, and I'd yell at him every day. And then the next moon, and for those of you that are watching, we fish the full moons in St. Thomas. So the next moon, their first day of fishing, we pull in, and he's got a smile ear to ear. And I'm like, "Man, you finally had a good day?" He goes, "No, I'm just tired of you picking on me."
I don't think
I'm
that
like,
kid
I don't
real.
I don't care. That's perfect. It worked.
It's like the owner of that boat. If he knew that kid had such a bad vibe, he would have got thrown off. Because a bad vibe from a mate on a boat's like a bad bearing on a Bertram.
Oh my
That boat
God.
always catches fish unless it's got a
A
bad
bad
bearing.
bear. Exactly. There's one thing I always tell everybody. I can teach anybody to do to fish. That's not a problem. I can teach anybody to fish. What I can't teach is a good positive attitude.
Yeah.
So if you've got a good positive attitude, you're welcome with me any day on a boat.
Heck
You're
yeah,
welcome
brother.
with me any day. So I can't, that's something you can't teach.
Yeah. No, well, when I get it, Bobby calls it Eeyore. Uh,
Uh,
it'll never work.
uh, I listen with some of the stuff I've tried in my life, some of the things that I've tried to build and put together. I don't, yeah. Sometimes I have that Eeyore attitude. Usually it's in the morning when I wake up and I go, what the F am I thinking?
Yeah.
There's no way. And then by the time I have my first cup of coffee, I'm like, I don't like that person when I first wake up.
It might take 2 cups of coffee. And it wasn't because it was a rough night's sleep. It was the 4 hours leading into the rough night's sleep.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, Dave, you hang out right there.
Right on, brother.
Everybody that's joined us today, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time for joining me and David Wirth, and thank Bobby for helping us put this together because I know she did all the technical stuff on your end. And I know she's listening, so I want to say thank you to her. And anybody that missed any of it, it's going to stay here live on Facebook, but we'll have it up in a couple of days on Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, Pandora, and my favorite, Alexa Play. Go to your friend's house and just yell out, Alexa, play Fly Navarro No BS. And guess what?
Boom.
Right there. They get to hear my voice in stereo. So everybody, thank you so much for your time today. And we will check you